Welcome back. For today's mission, we are doing something a little bit different.
Definitely.
And honestly, a lot more adrenaline-fueled. We have pulled the raw broadcast tapes, the post-game locker room interviews, the deep dive stat sheets.
All of it.
Yeah, all of it.
Mhm.
Because we want to take you straight into the action today.
Right.
So we want you to imagine you are strapping on a broadcaster's headset right now. You are stepping straight into the broadcast booth with us, looking out over this massive, transparent dome.
It's quite a view.
It really is. And below us, one of the most explosive, highly anticipated matches in Manheim Academy history. We are taking a deep dive into Game 7 of the season.
The Crimson Tigers.
Yes, the Crimson Tigers taking on the Azure Bears. Okay, let's unpack this. Because if you have been following this rivalry as closely as we have, we are in for an absolute masterclass in strategy, speed, and mid-air collisions.
Oh, without a doubt. It really is the perfect storm of a matchup. And we all know the punishing dimensions of the Manheim Dome, right?
210 feet of ice.
Exactly. 210 feet long, 95 feet across, and capped by 30 feet of vertical airspace. That is four-dimensional hockey.
It is.
But tonight, the Tigers exploited every single inch of that mana gravity. Just as a quick tactical refresher for you, mana gravity isn't just a boundary, it's an actual physical opponent.
It pushes back.
Right. Think of the neutral plane in the middle of the dome as a giant invisible magnet. If you fly up into the rafters, into the upper layer, you have to fight the gravity pulling you back down.
Yeah, and if you dive low into the lower layer,
Then you are fighting the current, pushing you back up. It burns an incredible amount of stamina. And that's why most teams avoid living in those vertical extremes.
but the Tigers don't care. It is
Right.
brilliant, chaotic, and just incredibly fast. And setting the scene for Game 7, the dome is just packed tonight. The energy is electric.
You can feel it.
You've got the house banners drifting in the arcane air currents above the field.
Mm-hmm.
And there is some serious bad blood here.
Oh, a ton.
This rivalry dates back 340 years, right back to the founding era of Manheim Academy. The Azure Bears and the Crimson Tigers were the first two houses to ever play this game.
And tonight they represent two completely opposite philosophies of how Manaball should be played.
Yeah, total contrast.
It is a pure clash of identities.
Yeah.
Let's look at the Crimson Tigers first. Their team motto is literally control the entire field.
Very subtle.
Right. They are the most aggressive team in the league. They deploy that highly unusual 3-2-1 formation. That's 3 centers, 2 strikers, and just 1 dedicated defender.
Which is wild.
It is. They want to dominate the tempo, push constant vertical attacks, and use all 3 layers of the dome aggressively. And remember, they're coming off a tough overtime loss, so they are clearly out for blood.
And what makes that 3-2-1 so risky is that Chad Griffith is left entirely alone as the sole defender.
Yep, stranded.
If the Tigers lose possession up in the upper layer, Griffith is on an island. But they just didn't care tonight, did they?
Not at all.
And on the other side of the dome, you have the Azure Bears. Their motto, structure wins games.
The exact opposite approach.
Exactly. They are the epitome of discipline, running a very balanced, methodical 2-2-2 system.
2 strikers, 2 centers, 2 defenders.
Right. They don't do flashy aerial attacks. Instead, they focus on positional control. They stay anchored to the neutral plane and the lower layer.
They want to grind their opponents down with their signature strategy, the bear spiral.
The bear spiral, yeah.
They cycle the orb along the curved dome barriers, using the physical wall as a protective shield. They just move it continuously until the opposing defense loses patience, steps out of line, and makes a rotational mistake.
It's a total game of attrition.
Exactly.
So the big question hanging over the arena as the players line up at Center Dome, can the Bears' patient, structured defense act as a brick wall against the relentless, chaotic speed of the Tigers?
That's what everyone was wondering.
The arbiters are in position, the crowd is roaring, the face-off is set. Let's get right into the action. The orb drop. And literally off the draw, the Tigers just explode.
They flew off the line.
You can see their strategy right away. The captain of the team, center Sydney Distanceek, wins the draw and instantly starts controlling possession in the neutral plane. She is moving at a blinding pace.
Distanceek was an absolute menace right from the opening whistle.
Completely.
What's fascinating here is how Distanceek uses her Ecologics magic style. She isn't just passing, she is sensing the subtle shifts in air pressure and ambient mana to anticipate player movement before it even happens.
Like she can feel the game.
Exactly. This allows her to thread these incredibly quick, precise passes through really heavy traffic. The Tigers immediately implemented their Crimson Collapse.
Oh, that was brutal.
Right. Pinching all three of their centers to create a chaotic high-pressure zone, it forced turnovers before the bear spiral could even get started.
It was suffocating. The Bears are just scrambling. And it pays off almost instantly. We are barely into the first period. Action along the dome barrier.
Yeah.
Center Liz Hadbucks gets pinned.
A tough spot.
But she uses her morphomancy magic style, literally warping the physical shape of her monastic for a split second. She creates this impossible, curved angle to slip the orb around the defender to striker Autumn Fallon.
And Fallon doesn't hesitate.
Not for a second. Fallon hits the thrusters on her mana boots and accelerates straight up into the upper layer. She reaches the apex, flips her momentum, and dives straight down toward the goal ring.
A terrifying play for a Guardian.
She fires a wicked downward spike shot right past Bears Guardian Ryan Ward.
Yeah.
The crowd goes absolutely wild. 1-0 Crimson Tigers.
We have to analyze why that spike shot was so devastating from a cognitive perspective.
Okay, lay it on us.
The real insight here isn't just that the Tigers flew higher, it is cognitive overload.
Right.
The human brain, even a magically enhanced one, is wired to track threats on a horizontal plane. We look left, we look right.
We don't look up.
Exactly. The Azure Bears pride themselves on their 2-2-2 defensive structure. They protect the slot and force you to the perimeter. But by constantly attacking from the upper layer, the Tigers force the Bears defenders, Kenny Brodnoxy and Chris Crook, to calculate mana gravity drag while looking straight up.
Which they aren't used to doing.
It completely short-circuits their defensive muscle memory.
Not to mention, Fallon was utilizing her illusions magic on the descent. She projected a false trajectory for just a fraction of a second. She masked the exact angle of her strike.
Which is just unfair.
Totally unfair. Guardian Ryan Ward, whose magic style is prayer, relies on manifesting literal physical shields of hard light to act as a wall. But it is incredibly hard to angle a hard light shield perfectly when the attack is dropping on your head from 30 feet above.
You can't trust your own eyes.
Right.
That combination of verticality and illusion completely bypassed the Bears' horizontal structure, and the Tigers didn't give them a single second to recalibrate.
They really didn't, because just moments later, Distant Zeke intercepts a clearing pass near center dome. She doesn't hesitate. She launches this perfect, sweeping arc pass into completely open airspace in the upper layer.
The airspace the Bears thought was safe.
Exactly. Striker Ty Clyde, riding his electromancy magic, literally overclocking his nervous system for blinding burst speed acceleration races up, gathers the levitating orb perfectly in stride, and hammers a brutal drive shot directly into the net. 2-0, Tigers.
That second goal is the nightmare scenario for the Azure Bears playbook.
How so?
They rely on using the upper layer solely for safe defensive clearing passes. They assume the airspace is empty because, normally, teams do not want to burn the stamina required to hang out up there.
It's too exhausting for a normal team.
Right. But the Tigers' relentless forecheck meant they were already anticipating the clear. Distant Zeke read the play perfectly.
She was already there.
By the end of this first period, the Bears' beloved system hockey was completely shattered. They couldn't establish their rhythm, they couldn't cycle the orb, and they were caught constantly reacting to three-dimensional attacks.
You could just feel the air deflating out of the Azure side of the stands.
Oh, it's silent.
Heading into the intermission, the Tigers are up 2-0. But, okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
Yes.
Period 2 begins. The Bears, to their credit, they refuse to roll over. They come out of the gates and put together their best, most coordinated push of the entire night.
This was the critical juncture of the match. If the Bears were going to impose their will and slow the game down to their preferred tempo, this was the moment they had to strike.
Center Freya Kroon, a junior who plays a fantastic two-way game, intercepts a sloppy Tigers pass in the neutral plane.
Finally, a mistake from Crimson.
Right. Kroon immediately feeds a fast horizontal transition attack to senior striker Chris Aaron. Aaron catches it in stride, winds up, and snaps a vicious shot right toward the top corner of the goal ring.
It was a beautiful shot.
It looks like a sure thing. The Bears fans are already out of their seats.
Oh.
But out of nowhere, Tigers guardian Devin Grazzo reacts instantly. He launches himself upward and manages to deflect the orb wide with an unbelievable save.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that save by Grazzo wasn't just a highlight. It was the hinge upon which the entire game swung.
It changed everything.
Grazzo, who is an A-tier guardian, uses demonology. Now, in Manaball, that means he is tapping into chaotic energy. He is sacrificing a fraction of his own stamina to summon kinetic tethers that allow for impossible mid-air directional changes.
So he pulls himself toward the orb.
Exactly. He contorted his body in a way that defied the mana gravity pulling him down. In that single moment, he broke the bear's spirit, and more importantly, he triggered an immediate, devastating counterattack.
The momentum shift was so violent you could feel the broadcast booth shaking.
The crowd lost their minds.
From there, it was an absolute avalanche. The Tigers grabbed the rebound and transitioned instantly. Liz Hadbucks carries the orb back to the offensive zone like a commander on a battlefield.
She was so composed.
She draws two Bears defenders toward her, completely collapsing their zone, then drops a perfectly disguised backward pass to defender Chad Griffith, who is trailing the play.
The lone defender?
Griffith, the senior enforcer, steps into it and just blasts a drive shot from the neutral plane. Goal! 3-0, Tigers.
Look at the tactical breakdown of that specific play. The Tigers are running that 3-2-1 formation.
Right.
Griffith is their lone dedicated defender. For him to be trailing the play deep in the offensive zone, essentially operating as a fourth forward, shows just how completely the Tigers had abandoned conventional caution.
They smelled blood.
They realized the Bears were reeling. The Azure defense was so traumatized by the aerial assault that when Griffith stepped up in the neutral plane, nobody rotated to cover him. They pressed their advantage to the absolute maximum.
It felt like every time you blinked, the Tigers were scoring again. We watched the tapes back, and the Tigers' dynamic center rotation just actively dismantled the Bear spiral.
It was a tactical clinic.
Shortly after Griffith's goal, Ty Clyde gets his second of the night. Distancing forces a turnover on the wall, completely disrupting a Bears cycle, and flips a no-look pass to Clyde. Clyde hits another electromancy speed boost, blowing past the Bears' defense on a fast break, and tucks it neatly under Ryan Ward's arm. 4-0.
The Bears were totally gassed at this point.
They looked exhausted on the ice.
The physical toll of fighting a team that attacks from above and below simultaneously is immense.
And the Tigers weren't just scoring flashy aerial goals either. To prove they could fight in the trenches, Autumn Fallon gets her second goal of the night just a few minutes later.
That was a grinder goal.
It really was. It's a gritty, hard-fought play in the lower layer. She fights off two Azure defenders, grinds out a position right on the doorstep of the goal ring, and redirects a messy rebound from a Hadbuck shot. The horn sounds for the end of the second period, and we are looking at a scoreboard that reads 5-0. Crimson Tigers.
It's important to understand just how thoroughly the Azure Bears were buried here. Their entire identity requires controlled possession along the barriers.
And it requires time.
Time they didn't have. The Tigers' strategy of controlling the entire field denied them both. The Bears were trying to play a two-dimensional game of chess, while the Tigers were playing three-dimensional aerial combat.
You can't execute a Bear spiral when you're constantly looking over your shoulder for a striker dropping out of the sky.
Exactly.
Moving into the third period, the dynamic finally shifts. The Tigers have a massive 5-goal lead. They take their foot off the gas and shift into a defensive posture. They collapse around the neutral plane to protect that shutout for Grazzo.
Which is the smart, pragmatic move.
Take no chances.
Right. They force the Bears, who are absolutely not built for urgent, chaotic offense, to try and break through a stacked defense while the clock is ticking down.
But the Bears didn't quit. And that brings us to the absolute moment of the match. Midway through the third period, Azure's A-tier striker, Dial Elfkyle, decides to take matters into his own hands.
He had enough.
He really had. Using his kinesis magic style, applying raw, brute force telekinetic manipulation to his own trajectory, he literally climbs the air into the upper layer.
Defying their own playbook.
He abandons the Bears' usual horizontal playbook entirely. He reaches the ceiling and launches a massive, powerful downward strike toward the far corner of the goal ring. It is an absolute rocket.
It was going in.
But Devin Grazzo stretches his entire body across the crease, completely horizontal in midair, and makes a spectacular diving glove save. He knocks the orb away and preserves the shutout deep into the third.
That save by Grazzo is going to be on the highlight reels for the rest of the season.
Without a doubt.
Defending a downward strike from the upper layer is notoriously difficult. The Guardian has to track the orb's acceleration, which is compounding because the mana gravity is actively pulling it down to the neutral plane, adding speed to the shot.
So it's getting faster as it drops.
Exactly. Grazzo's spatial awareness, combined with his demonology reflexes, allowed him to intercept an object moving at terrifying speed.
It was poetry in motion. And just to add insult to injury, the Tigers marched back down the field and add one more insurance goal. Hadbucks threads it to Fallon, who feeds it across the slot to Griffith for his second point of the night. A clean strike. 6-0.
Just relentless.
The Bears do finally manage to break the shutout in the dying minutes. Chris Aaron buries a quick shot off a desperate pass from Elfkyle. But it is way too little, way too late. The final whistle blows. 6-1, Crimson Tigers. A total statement win.
When we look at the final box score from the stats sheets, the dominance is undeniable.
Numbers are crazy.
The Tigers outshot the Bears 30-22. They controlled the possession, the tempo, and the airspace.
The individual stats for the Tigers are just staggering.
You had 3 different Tigers finish with 3 points each. Sydney Distenzik quietly controlled the entire match with 3 crucial assists. Autumn Fallon secured 2 goals and an assist. Ty Clyde matched her with 2 goals and an assist.
A three-headed monster.
And we can't ignore Liz Hadbucks either, who orchestrated the offense beautifully with a goal and 2 assists. It was a complete multi-layered offensive barrage where every piece of their 3-2-1 formation was a lethal threat.
The Guardian contrast is the other massive takeaway from the stat sheets.
Devin Grazzo was a human highlight reel. He faced 22 shots and saved 21 of them, leaving him with an elite .955 save percentage.
Incredible performance.
On the other side, poor Ryan Ward for the Bears. She faced 30 shots, and honestly, she was left completely exposed by a broken defensive system.
Yeah, she was hung out to dry.
She finished with 24 saves and an .800 save percentage. It wasn't that she played poorly. She was simply put in impossible situations by the Tigers' vertical attacks. She was fighting a war on 2 fronts, while her defense was only equipped for 1.
So what does this all mean? We have this historic rivalry, a highly anticipated Game 7, and it turns into a lopsided clinic. What is the takeaway for the rest of the league watching this tape?
The takeaway is that this loss exposed a fatal structural flaw in the Azure Bears philosophy. Discipline and positional control are excellent when you are dictating the terms of engagement.
When you are in control.
Right. But once their horizontally locked system breaks down under sustained chaotic pressure, they do not have the improvisational skills to recover. They couldn't adapt to the cognitive load of defending the verticality of the game.
It's just too much to process.
For the rest of the league, the message is chillingly clear. When the Crimson Tigers use all 3 layers of the dome and their centers are clicking on all cylinders, they are nearly impossible to stop. You cannot just defend the ice. You have to defend the sky.
Defend the sky. I love that. What a fantastic breakdown of an unforgettable match. We want to thank you for strapping in and joining us in the broadcast booth today. From the opening orb drop to the final whistle, this deep dive into Manaball strategy, magical mechanics, and pure athletic chaos has been an absolute blast.
This raises an important question, though, something I want you to take away from the Dome today and apply to your own life.
Okay, let's hear it.
The Crimson Tigers proved that chaotic, multidimensional aggression can completely shatter perfect, predictable discipline. In your own life, when you are facing a rigidly structured problem or an opponent who has everything neatly planned out horizontally, how can you introduce your own vertical layer of unpredictability?
Wow.
How can you change the dimensions of the game to completely bypass their defenses?
Oh, there's a brilliant thought to leave on. Next time you hit a wall, don't just push against it. Fly over it. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us, and we will catch you on the next one.